and welcome. My name is Conrad and you're watching this video either by coincidence or because you're interested in photography. I've recently taken this picture of Starbucks coffee and I thought to show you how I took it and all the steps that it took to end up with this picture. Now, before we go, I just want to mention that I really like to do everything in camera, and I would say that 99% of my pictures are developed in Lightroom and I don't use Photoshop at all. However, there is this 1% of pictures that I sometimes change in Photoshop. Now, I don't use Photoshop. Really, I don't use Photoshop as software. I use an alternative software for Mac users that is called Pixelmator, and it's so much cheaper than Photoshop, even the CS Cloud Photoshop whatever thing. So let me start with discussing the camera and the lens that I'm using and the speedlights. I'm using Nikon D7000 with a lens that is a 15mm lens f1.4, which means that in reality it is a 75mm because of the cropped sensor. I'm using two speedlights. This one is SB900 and the other one is SB700. And to trigger these flashes, I use Phottix Odin TTL receiver, two receivers and a transmitter. Alright, let me show you now the process that it took to end up with this picture. Before we continue, I just want to let you know why you see another coffee mug here in the background. It's only here to support the black background card and it's not visible in the picture at all. So let's start with the surface that I have here. What I use is a kitchen tile I bought in a home improvement store. If you live in the US, you can find these in stores like Home Depot and Lowe's, or if you live in Europe, Brico has these as well, I believe. When looking for one, make sure that its color goes well with your subject and the idea of the photograph you have in mind, and think whether you need a glossy tile or a matte one. The one I got here is a matte, and I bought the biggest one I could find. This way I avoided any frustrations with having a too small surface background. Speaking about the background, I decided to use a black foam board that you can see here. The main reason for using this background was to show the smoke, and I thought it would be the most visible on black background. Okay, so I have my black background and the surface set up. I put the grains around the mug and I framed the picture. Let's look at the lighting setup, but before we do that, let me just tell you that I was shooting in complete darkness. This way I avoided any light reflecting in the mug, and because it was pitch black, I had to shoot in manual focus. Of course, I set the focus first and only then I turned off the lights in the room. Let's take a look at the lighting setup on the left. I have my Nikon SB700 set here to 1/16 of its power, and it's pointed in the direction of this white bouncing card. Originally the bouncing card was much bigger, so I cut it in half and I made a V card out of it. The light that bounces of this white V card back in the direction of the mug is much softer than a directional light from the speedlight. However, it was still too harsh and not soft enough, so I decided to use the translucent part of my 5-in-1 light reflector between the V card and the table, as you can see over there. Because I am really in a small room, some of the light was bouncing off the walls, so to control that and to limit the spillover effect, I put a black card on top of the white V card. So let's take a look at the right side of my setup now. And here I have my Nikon SB900 with a very quick do-it-yourself snoot made out of aluminum foil. I wanted to have a very subtle streak of light on the black background, so the speedlight is set to 1/32 of the power. I also have a white card here on the right hand side. In fact, it was not in the position it is right now. I held it in my hand at about 45-degree angle when taking a picture. This way, some of the light coming from the opposite direction, that would be from my SB700, bounced back and illuminated the right side of the mug and the coffee grains in the mug as well. If I had the white card laying the way it is right now, it wouldn't bounce any light on the grains in the mug. Alright, so now you know my lighting setup. When I took the first picture, which looked like this, I decided I missed something. I wanted to add some smoke as if the coffee grains were just freshly roasted. And I told you at the beginning that I like to do everything in camera, but it proved to be quite a challenge in this case. My wife, like most women, loves candles, and we have all different kinds of candles at home. We also have plenty of tea candles. I figure out that if I put out a candle, it might create smoke that I need for this shot. I took out the candle wax, which left me with a candle wick, and that was perfect. Unfortunately, getting everything in one shot was not possible. I tried putting the candle in the mug, then some grains in front of it to cover the wick, but that didn't work. And I tried many different ways to get everything in camera, but I guess it's not always possible. Then I decided to take two shots and put them together in Pixelmator, which is an alternative to Photoshop for Mac users. So my first shot was already completed. It's the same as you have already seen in a couple of minutes ago. And in the second shot, I took out the grains from the mug and I put the candles instead. This is the result. Now I blended these two shots together in Pixelmator, enhanced the photo a bit in Lightroom, and there we have the final image. I hope you have enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.